What is up, everyone? Darkside Phil here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series, where I give you maximum truth and minimum bullshit on the latest video game releases. And today we are going to be talking about a game that is extremely highly anticipated, one of probably the biggest hyped games of the year, but at the same time we're going to talk about whether or not it actually deserves that hype. It is the latest entrance from a longtime game developer, Naughty Dog, from which we have seen the Uncharted series, and a lot of people were up in the air wondering, will this game turn out as good, if not better, than the Uncharted series? The game we are talking about today is The Last of Us. Now, this is actually the Steelbook Special Collector's Edition, which is why it looks a little different than the standard game. So, The Last of Us. Let's talk. First of all, I just want to let everyone know there will be no major spoilers in this review. My goal is to only give you a brief overview of what happens in the course of the game, and also talk about the gameplay of the game and my thoughts about it, not to spoil the plot. So I'm going to do my best to not do any kind of major spoilers whatsoever, okay? However, there will be minor spoilers, such as there's people in it, okay? So, The Last of Us takes place in a world 20 years after some kind of an outbreak or infection has turned most of the world into zombie infected. Now, the cool thing about this is that unlike other takes on the zombie genre where it's, oh no, it's a blood-borne bacteria and it makes you go about to your most base functions, they take a little bit of a different twist with it. So this is the minor spoiler. The zombies are actually infected by some kind of spores, okay? And so when people become infected, somehow the spores infect the brain, and these people now only have the base functions, which are to eat and to smell and things like that. However, the spores actually force the people to eventually become blind because these fungi grow out of their heads and out of their eye sockets, and they basically become completely blind, okay? So it's an interesting take on the whole zombie genre. It's a little bit different than the other things that you've heard or seen. It's not voodoo. It's not some kind of a mystical power. It's not a virus. In this case, it's a fungus that actually causes this infection. Now, the game takes place 20 years after this infection spread across the world, and basically the world has become a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Very few people are left alive. The ones that are living in different kind of quarantine zones, settlements that are off the grid per se. Everyone has basically become extremely paranoid, and everyone is scraping and clawing for whatever resources are left in the world. What that means is that the world has become an extremely deadly place, not only just because of the zombies and the infected that are out there, but because the people are now starting to become ruthless killers, hunters, scavengers. They will peck and claw for whatever they can get and don't care about the consequences. People will go out there and just slaughter you to get what you have, okay? So the game actually follows the story of Joel, who is someone who basically kind of lost everything when it came to the zombie apocalypse. And he's now he's a smuggler. He's in cahoots with this group of rebels called the Fireflies, who are trying to basically strike back against the government because they feel that the government is oppressing everyone, and they actually feel that there could be a cure to the virus or the infection that people just aren't finding. And so sometimes Joel does smuggling runs for the Fireflies, sometimes he doesn't. Primarily he's just looking out for himself. But his whole life changes basically when he is intersected with Ellie, a 14-year-old girl, and he's tasked with basically getting her across the country. And the whole story of The Last of Us is basically what Joel and Ellie go through over the course of a full year's time when it comes to getting from Boston. I believe actually they don't start in Boston. I forget, they start in some place on the East Coast. And they have to end up, by the end of the game, going fully across country all the way into the Midwest. So it's the story of Joel and Ellie basically coming together, two complete strangers, having to get to know each other, having an interesting relationship that develops over the course of the game, and seeing the crazy kinds of very adult-oriented choices that these two have to make in order to survive. And that's one thing I definitely want to say about The Last of Us. This is not a game for kids. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's a video game, I'll get it for my kid because, he's 12 years old, but he really wants to play. This is not a game for young children. I'll tell you that right now. The things that Joel and Ellie are forced to do are gruesome, horrific. The things that they go through in the game, insane moral dilemmas and choices where sometimes you have to make the negative choice in order to survive. And it was just, it's that kind of a serious content that makes the game so good. The actual written dialogue, the moral choices that these people have to go through to survive, just the writing itself, the different situations that you go through in the game are outstanding. They're varied, they're fun, interesting. The game was very well written, and I have to say, very well voice acted. Troy Baker doing a great job with Joel, and I'm not sure who actually did the voice of Ellie, but they both did outstanding jobs. The dialogue is excellent, the writing, the pacing is excellent in this game. And so the game's going to take you all across the country, different locales, different seasons. Summer, in the fall you'll see the leaves falling, in the winter there's snow. So you go through all the different seasons, which is pretty cool too, and you go to different areas and different kinds of settlements. You'll be in rural areas, you'll be on beaches, you'll be in major metropolitan cities that have been falling apart. And the other cool thing is you're not always just fighting one type of enemy. Sometimes you'll be fighting infected. Sometimes you'll be trying to just sneak by the infected, because the infected, remember, are blind, and you can actually use some sneaking gameplay there. But then also sometimes you're trying to get through areas where there are human scavengers, hunters, who are out to kill you. They want to kill you and take what you have. And so you have to outsmart them. And so now let's start talking about the gameplay of The Last of Us. Well, at its core, it is a third-person shooter. So a lot of people might say, oh, it's made by Naughty Dog, they made Uncharted, that's a third-person shooter, so it's just more of the same, and they must have just dialed it in. And the answer to that criticism is no, that is completely incorrect. Sure, there are a lot of similarities between The Last of Us and Uncharted. There's a cover-based system for shooting. You can sneak up on people and do like melee holds and melee attacks. But outside of the very base similarities of that, there's a lot of things in The Last of Us that are very different from Uncharted. Well, first of all, the primary thing that is different is that you are going to be constantly scavenging for materials to make items that are going to aid you in your quest. So, unlike Uncharted, where maybe you're just looking for collectibles that are treasures or whatever, in this game you're looking for actual ingredients. So you're looking for scissors, that's a blade that you can use. You're looking for tape, because you can tape things together with it. You're looking for alcohol, because alcohol can be used to make many things, including Molotov cocktails, but also first aid kits. So what your goal is going to be is to try to go throughout the game not only surviving, but also looting as much as you can. Remember, this is the apocalypse. There's very limited resources. Looting is a large part of the gameplay of The Last of Us. So you'll constantly be looking for these items and crafting things together. And what I mean is that there's a menu where you can select what item you want to craft, and you take a minute or so to put it together, and then you get the item. Now the items are a variety of uses. For example, you could get a shiv, and the shiv is used to either instantly execute an enemy from behind if you sneak up to them, or a shiv can also be used to unlock certain doors that are jammed. You can actually pick the lock. So shivs are multi-use. Now these items are all disposable, meaning they break. You can't actually use them infinitely, and therefore you have to be very, very careful what you craft with the ingredients that you find, because they are limited, and also that you are in a safe place when you use them, because you may get attacked when you try to heal, for example, but also that the item management is correct. You don't want to just walk up and shiv every single enemy, because then you lose the shiv, and you might have needed it for a door that's right around the corner that would have been full of valuable assets. Now, in addition to these ingredients that you find, you also find things that are called equipment parts, or the game shows it as a gear. So I call them gears throughout the entire game. Now, what these are used for is when you actually find certain blueprints or certain weapons, you can actually upgrade your arsenal. So what is the arsenal in this game? Well, you got different kinds of handguns, or standard, like a 9mm, but you also get a 6-shooter revolver. There's a Magnum handgun with a scope. There's a hunting rifle. There's a regular shotgun. There's a sawed-off shotgun. There's a bow and arrow. There's a flamethrower. And then, of course, you can also craft different kinds of explosives, like a Molotov cocktail that'll kill people instantly. There's a bomb that you can set as a trap and have enemies walk into it and it'll explode. So there is a variety of weapons in the game. In addition to that, there are unique melee weapons that you will find throughout the game, including the machete, the 2x4, the lead pipe, the baseball bat, etc., etc. Now, these have limited use, and when I say that, I mean it's not a melee weapon that you can just use forever. After you hit a certain amount of times with them, they will break, and you will actually have to find another melee weapon to replace it, or else risk using your fists. But your fists are pretty weak. It's going to take anywhere from, like, I'd say maybe 3 to maybe 7 hits. I've seen it vary that much to actually down someone just using your fists. So it's ideally what you're going to want to do is using these melee weapons, okay? So, you can upgrade your weapons, you can upgrade I believe you can, is there ability to upgrade your abilities? Yes, you can also upgrade your abilities through things called supplements. And this is the third kind of collectible item in the game. They show us like pills or something like that. And what they do is when you save them up, they allow you to upgrade your person yourself. So for example, you'll have more health. You'll have a bigger health bar. Maybe you can heal yourself faster. Maybe you can actually see further when it comes to your abilities of hearing, which we're going to talk about right now. So outside of all that standard kind of third-person shooter kind of gameplay, there's also this unique ability, and I shouldn't say it's unique because it's been in other games. It's been in Batman Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. It's been in Deus Ex. But it is the ability to hear and sense your enemies. So by holding down the R2 button, you actually will be able to see through walls, and any enemy that's near you, you'll be able to see them walking around. And what it's supposed to be, basically, is that you can hear their footsteps, but obviously they want to show that visually. So you can use this ability to track where your enemies are and try to strategically either sneak by them or take them out. And there are multiple ways you can take them out. You can be gung-ho and just guns blazing. The problem is if you use your weapons, chances are, number one, you're going to run out of ammo because there's very scarce ammo in the game. And number two, everyone's going to hear you and they're going to run towards you. And that goes for the human, like scavenger hunter type enemies, and it goes for the infected. If they hear you, they will come running and you will be screwed. You'll be overwhelmed. So ideally what you're going to want to do is sneak, which you can do by holding, or by pressing, I believe it's the circle button. You crouch and you can sneak around silently, but of course you move a lot slower. Now, like I said, you can try to just sneak by people, or you can also try to take them out stealthily. Now to do that, you go up behind them, you press the triangle button, and you'll grapple them, and now you have a choice. You can either take them out noisily really fast, you can either try to put them to sleep, which is a silent takedown that no one will hear, or you can use a shiv if you have one to instantly kill them. Okay, so you got three options there. Or in some other cases, let's say for example you take one guy hostage, and as you're doing it, as you're grabbing him, other people see you. You could actually use him as a hostage, hold him in front of you like this, and then shoot by him, and he'll take all the shots from people that are shooting at you. Okay, so there's a lot of variety in what you can do and how you play the game. There's different ways to beat stuff. I'm sure there are stages that I beat in one way, like running past the enemies and skipping them. Other people maybe carefully killed every enemy, and I'm sure other people maybe did it a different way. So it's really cool that there are different ways to take on the different stages, okay? And that's primarily the gameplay of The Last of Us. You're going to be sneaking around, you're going to be going from point A to point B, you're going to be investigating and looking for loot, you're going to be trying to get through the country and basically get Ellie somewhere safely. That's kind of the general gist of the entire game. And that's without any major plot spoilers or anything like that, because there are some big twists, there's some interesting characters that you run into, there's some betrayals, but I'm not going to tell you any of that of who it is because I don't want to obviously spoil this outstanding plot of the game. Now, one thing that I absolutely have to bring up are the graphics of The Last of Us. This game, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it, this game is, in my opinion, the best graphics of this console generation. Now keep in mind the next generation's right around the corner. Come November, we're going to have the new consoles. But the graphics of The Last of Us are almost photorealistic. The frame rate is consistently high except in a couple parts, and the environments are so well designed that let me put it to you this way. In a typical video game, it's very linear, okay? And you know where you can go because you can blatantly see where you can go. And if there's an area that you can't go, you know there's nothing there. If there's an area that you can go and it's a little bit hidden, chances are there's going to be a hidden item there. In The Last of Us, there's so much detail, okay, that there are entire areas that are just nothing there, but they're there just for the sake of making the game realistic. You'll be on a street, a city street, and you'll see an alley, and like, wow, you'll walk down the alley and you'll look all around, there'll be posters and all stuff there, and there won't be any items there, but it's cool that there was a full alley there like in real life there would be. Not that all of a sudden there's a wall or an invisible wall that you can't pass. There really is an amazing amount of detail and attention to detail in the graphics of The Last of Us, and I have to say it is one of the most beautiful games overall I've ever seen, which you might be surprised, like a game about people getting infected and turning into zombies is beautiful? The answer is yes. So a lot of the game you'll spend out in nature, and some of the both breathtaking things you'll see are in those stages, so it's really neat in that regard, okay? Now, over the course of the game, you will meet a variety of characters, a variety of people who are going to be some evil, some out for their own good, some who are more like you and they're really just looking to survive, but they understand that it's a harsh world and they may even want to team up with you. So there's going to be a lot of cool interactivity with different characters during the course of the game. The one thing that people seem to be complaining about is the ending. Some people are saying the ending is a letdown. I'm obviously not going to tell you what the ending is because that is a huge spoiler. But for me, I was satisfied with the ending. I understood why it was what it was, and I do think that the ending was a good ending to the game. So some people are going to criticize, some people were looking for something more. I think that when it comes to a great game like The Last of Us, people are always hoping, oh God, I wish it could be exactly what I wanted for the ending because I've invested so much into the characters in the game that I really like them, and I want this to be this kind of resolution that I'm looking for personally. You're not going to always get that in video games. You have to understand that, and in this case I think that the ending went a different direction that people weren't expecting, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done, okay? Now, the actual music of The Last of Us is interesting because it's a minimalist soundtrack. It's basically a bunch of like almost instrumental guitar riffs, but they're done at the right times to have emotional impact. There's a couple ongoing themes that they play throughout the game. They're like, okay, that's the theme song of The Last of Us. It's perfect that they're playing it right here during maybe a touching moment or a horrible moral choice that needs to be made. That's when they play it, and it really tugs at your heartstrings. You're like, yes, they hit the mark there, perfect. The length of The Last of Us, and this is what a lot of people are all, oh, how long is the game? Because originally some people were saying the game's 15 to 18 hours long, and other people were like, that can't be right. It's probably 8 to 10 hours like a typical game. Well, give me a minute here. I'll bring up my playlist, and I'll actually tell you exactly how long the game was for my first playthrough. And keep in mind that my first playthrough of any game is on normal difficulty, okay? My first playthrough of The Last of Us lasted me over 13 hours. Let's put it was between 13 and 14 hours. That's pretty damn good for a day in this modern day and age when a lot of these games are coming out with only 5 to 8 hour campaigns. They're really like just kind of put together piece by piece, hashed together. This game is really well done, extremely high production values, and the game just keeps going. You think, oh, it's going to be over? Nope. Guess what? There's lots more content for you. I was less than halfway through the game, and I thought I was almost done. Let's put it that way. So if you are enjoying the game, here's a lot of content in here for you, and the game has massive replayability because I will be honest here, the game is very stingy with trophies. A lot of people are like trophy collectors on PlayStation 3, and they really want to go for the gold. They want to try to get every trophy in a game that they buy. In this game, they're very hard to get. In fact, you only get one trophy for beating the game. There's not like trophies for every chapter. No, you only get one for beating the entire game on each difficulty level. You get one trophy for beating New Game Plus on each difficulty level. There are certain things that you can do during the game that'll give you trophies. Like in one stage, if you talk to Ellie at certain periods of time and have certain conversations, you'll get a trophy for it. But for the most part, it's very hard to get the trophies, and it is almost a completionist's kind of paradise because people who, oh, I want to spend the time to get every item. In this case, that's how you get the trophies in this game, and so it actually pays you off for your hard-earned time trying to find all the items. And speaking of which, there are a variety of other collectibles in the game, such as maybe a letter from someone, you can read it, or a photo with writing on it, you can look at the photo, or an audio recording, or maybe a newspaper clipping. There's all kinds of different collectibles in The Last of Us for you to be looking for during the course of the campaign, okay? Now, you might be saying to yourself, I'm sold. This sounds great. Wow, I'm so happy that Naughty Dog really put the effort into their showing their true colors, unlike some other publishers which recently have tried to make new game lines and the games were awful. This game shines above the pack. And so you might be saying, alright, that's it. Well, guess what? That's not it. There's more to talk about. There's actually a multiplayer mode in The Last of Us. And the multiplayer mode is called Faction, where you get to choose to either be the Hunters or the Fireflies, and it's basically 4-on-4 sneaking combat. So think the gameplay of the campaign of The Last of Us put into a multiplayer setting. So that's right, you are still going to be scavenging for items. You're going to use those items to craft things that are going to help you, like health packs and bombs, and so on and so forth. You're also going to be finding equipment or gears. You can use that to buy better weapons, to buy ammo, and to basically upgrade your character. You can buy armor and stuff. There's two different game modes. One's called, I think, I forget, it's food something, like food scavenging or something like that. And the other one is actually just a straight up like hardcore deathmatch where if you die once, that's it. There's no respawn. It's a series of rounds. Each team has to win 4 rounds to win the game. So it's really fun. It's interesting. It's an interesting taking the engine from the campaign of The Last of Us and applying it to a multiplayer. My only complaint about the multiplayer is, number one, it's on PlayStation 3 and the voice chat sounds awful. I tried to do some gameplay today with my fans. They started talking, it was terrible. It was like, and every time I play a game online on PlayStation 3, it sounds like shit. So I'm really hoping they fix that stuff for PlayStation 4. But that's one complaint, but that's not the fault of the game, okay? Number 2, there's only 2 game modes. Like I said, there's the one where it's called Food Collection or whatever, where you can collect items and use those items to craft stuff. And the other mode is the Hardcore Survivalist mode. And there's only 2, that's it. There's no variety. There's no like traditional team deathmatch. There's no capture the flag or any free-for-all or anything like that. It's totally team-based. So really, it's a very limited multiplayer portion of the game, but that's fine because the game itself, the single-player campaign is so good that the multiplayer is just, it's an added bonus. It like sweetens the deal. Here's this amazing fucking AAA game that Naughty Dog did an outstanding job on. Oh, by the way, if you beat the campaign and you don't really feel like going back and playing the game, you still get replayability because now you get to play the multiplayer online, and the multiplayer is a lot of fun. So on all fronts, The Last of Us is an outstanding game. It's really well done, really well thought out, one of the best plots of the year by far. A breath of fresh air. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This year, 2013, has been a slow stinker year. And if you really want my opinion, I think it's because they're finishing up the games for this console generation, and the people are starting to focus, the game developers, on the next console generation. And because of that, the games this year have been lacking in quality, except for maybe a small few, which I could probably name on one hand, okay? So this game now joins the games on that one hand as one of the most outstanding games of the year. In fact, I'm going to say this. I don't know if people are going to agree with me. Some people will probably say this is sacrilegious to say this. I think that The Last of Us is better than all 3 Uncharted games. I really do. I think that the game is more adult-oriented, there's a darker tone to it, and I'm going to say that. The game has a very adult, dark tone to it, and that's again why I have to emphasize, do not let your kids play it. This is not a game for kids. They shouldn't be going up with this kind of fucking moral issues and shit when they're that young, alright? But, that being said, it's an outstanding fucking game. I love it. Like I said, I actually like it better than Uncharted. Uncharted kind of doesn't take itself too seriously. It's more of a joking nature. This is a serious moral tearing matter, and the plot is done so well written, that it is one of the best games of the year. So what do I give it? I give The Last of Us a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, if you've been reading the mainstream media, a lot of people have been praising the hell out of this game. It's true. The reason they're doing that is because the game actually is that good. Do not miss The Last of Us. Do not say, it's from Naughty Dog, it's going to play like Uncharted, it's probably not that good. This is one of the best games of the year. If you haven't seen my playthrough yet, it is completely live on YouTube. Check it out. Just watch part 1 and 2. I'm telling you, you're going to be hooked. You're going to want to play this game. Okay? So The Last of Us, an outstanding game, one of the best of the year. It's going to be a Game of the Year contender, I can tell already. 9.5 out of 10. Exceptional game. Very good job, Naughty Dog. Thank you for starting a new IP that's not Uncharted, that is just as good, if not better. And hopefully, I don't know if they're going to continue it or not. I don't know if maybe they'll feature other characters and how they survive in the zombie apocalypse, or if it was just a one-off. But if it was a hell of a ride. It was a lot of fun. Thanks, Naughty Dog, for a great game. That's what gaming is all about. Okay, so thanks a lot for tuning in to the Hateful Truth video game review of The Last of Us. I hope that you found it informative, and now you can make an informed decision on whether or not you'd like to try out this game. I say yes, you definitely should. And thanks for watching. I hope I gave you maximum truth and minimum bullshit based off of my experiences. And I'll see you next time for another Hateful Truth review. Peace out.